Welcome back to the Deep Dive. It's January 22nd, 2026, and today we are trying something a little different.
Yeah, we are.
Usually, we take a broad topic like the future of AI or something, and we break it down with analogies.
Right. High-level concepts.
But looking at the stack of sources we have for this week, that approach just, it doesn't fit.
It really doesn't. I mean, we're looking at the Azure changelog from January 14th to today, and honestly, this isn't for the casual observer. This is for the platform engineers, the cloud
I
architects.
think people have to keep the lights on.
Exactly.
Exactly. So we're cutting the fluff today.
No analogies.
No comparing Kubernetes to a container ship. Not today.
Yeah.
We're going straight into version numbers, API changes, and availability zones. The goal is a focused weekly update on 6 specific service changes.
And looking at these 6 updates, there's a really clear theme. It's not about flashy new features. You're not going to see some new GenAI Studio button here. The theme is, I'd say, infrastructure maturity. We're seeing Microsoft tighten the screws on how workloads are secured, and a massive shift in the runtime for AKS.
That AKS update is definitely the headline. It's the kind of thing that looks small in a release note, but
it can cause a lot of overtime if you ignore it.
yeah. Let's start there. Ubuntu 24.04 is now generally available on Azure Kubernetes Service.
Right, and on the surface, that sounds pretty routine. New OS version, okay.
You think, okay, newer kernel, some updated packages, I'll roll it out next quarter.
But the sources are very specific here. This support starts with Kubernetes version 1.32.
Which is the current rolling version. But the OS isn't really the story, is it? It's what's inside the OS.
Exactly.
If you dig into the technical details of that Ubuntu image, you see that Container 2.0 is enabled by default.
That is the critical detail. That's the whole story. I mean, we have been running on the 1.x branch of Container for a very long time.
A very long time.
Moving to 2.0 as the default, that creates a distinct boundary line for platform engineers. This isn't just a patch. It's a major version upgrade of the container runtime interface.
And I think we need to pause on why that matters, because for a lot of application developers, deploying a standard Java app, they might not even notice.
Probably not. But for the platform team, the people actually building the cluster's container 2.0, drops a lot of legacy baggage.
What does that mean, though, legacy baggage?
It means it deprecates older CRI container runtime interface API versions. It changes how image pulling and sandbox management happen on the back end.
So if I'm just deploying pods, I'm probably fine?
You're probably fine. And this is a really big but, if you're running third-party security agents or logging sidecars or any custom daemon sets that mount the socket.
Gotcha. I've seen so many setups where a monitoring agent mounts run container container.sock.
To scrape metrics or inspect containers, yeah. With Container 2.0, the API exposed on that socket has changed.
So if your vendor hasn't updated their agent,
or your custom script relies on a deprecated field, that daemon set is going to crash loop the second you upgrade the node pool.
And it's not just crashing, it's your observability going dark during an upgrade.
Which is the worst possible time to lose visibility. The source material is basically screaming a warning at us. Validate your daemon sets. Validate your security scanners. Do not assume backward compatibility here.
And there's a timer on this, right? Microsoft isn't leaving this as an option forever.
No. The roadmap in the notes is pretty aggressive.
What does it say?
Right now, on Kubernetes 1.32, Ubuntu 24.04 is an option. You have to select it. But the documentation explicitly states that starting with Kubernetes version 1.35,
it becomes the default.
It becomes the default OS SKU.
Okay, so let's do the math on that. We're on 1.32 now, so you have the life cycle of 1.33 and 1.34 to get your house in order.
And by the time 1.35 drops, if you haven't validated your workloads against Container 2.0, the platform is just going to force the switch on you.
And in enterprise time, 3 minor versions is not a lot of time.
It's nothing. That's maybe 6 to 9 months, depending on your upgrade cadence.
It reminds me of the Docker shim deprecation a few years back.
No, yeah.
Everyone ignored it until the last minute, and then it was just a scramble. This feels like the sequel.
It really is. The takeaway here is that you've got a clear upgrade path, but you have to walk it. You need to be migrating your node pools to Ubuntu 24.04 now, while you're on 1.33.
Find those broken sockets now. On a dev cluster.
Exactly. Not when 1.35 hits GA and becomes the default for everything new.
Okay, so action item for the Kubernetes admins. Audit your daemon sets for socket mounts and check vendor compatibility for Container 2.0.
Please do.
Let's shift gears to the data layer. we have a pretty significant security update regarding SaaS shared access signatures.
This is a massive win for security posture, a huge win. Specifically for those other storage services, we're seeing a public preview for user delegation SS for Azure Tables, Azure Files, and Azure Queues.
Finally is a word that comes to mind.
Right.
For context, if you've been working with blob storage, you've had this for years. It's the standard. But tables, files, and queues, they've been lagging behind.
They really have. Historically, if you needed to give an external service access to an Azure queue, for example.
You had to sign the SS token using the storage account key.
Right. And we all know why that's a nightmare.
I hate storage account keys. They are essentially the root password for the entire storage account. It's terrifying.
It is. The account key gives full administrative access to everything. If you sign a SaaS token with that key and that token leaks, you can't just revoke that one token.
No, you have to rotate the master key, which breaks every other application that depends on it.
A blast radius problem.
You're handing out the keys to the castle just so someone can deliver a package to the mailbox.
Well, I promise no analogies, but that's a good one. It's accurate. User delegation SaaS changes the signing authority.
How does that work?
Instead of using that static account key, you sign the AS token using a user delegation key that you request from Microsoft Entra ID.
So the trust anchor moves from a static secret string to an identity.
Correct. An Entra ID principal, like a user or a managed identity, requests a short-lived key. That key signs the SaaS token, which means you can grant access based on RBAC.
Role-based access control. So I can say, this specific managed identity is allowed to sign tokens for this specific queue.
Exactly. And crucially, it removes the friction of key rotation.
Right.
Since the underlying trust is Entra ID, if you need to revoke access, you just disable the identity or change the RBAC assignment. You don't have to scramble to update connection strings in 50 different microservices.
It harmonizes the security model. It used to be modern security for blobs and, legacy security for tables and queues.
And now, with this public preview, you can apply the same zero trust principles across the board.
Okay, but let's play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
This is going to annoy some developers, isn't it? I mean, using a shared key is just, it's easy. You copy it, you paste it, and it works forever.
It's easy, but it's also incredibly dangerous. And yes, it absolutely adds development friction. There's no denying that. You're moving from a static string to an active authentication flow.
You have to implement the token request flow, handle expiration, refresh logic.
All of that. But consider the operational reality. How many times have we seen a permanent key leak into a GitHub repo?
Too many times to count.
Exactly. The short-term pain of writing that token refresh logic pays off the first time you have a security audit, or the first time an employee leaves and you realize they had the master keys on their laptop.
So this update removes one of the last valid excuses for keeping shared key access enabled on a storage account.
It really does. Even though it's in public preview, architects need to start planning that refactor. If you have legacy apps talking to table storage, put auth modernization on the backlog now.
It really feels like the beginning of the end for the storage account key.
I think so.
Okay, sticking with storage, but moving into the high-performance database world, let's look at this update for Oracle workloads on Azure. The title is Application Volume Group for Oracle. Create Data Protection Volume Group.
It's a bit of a word salad, I'll give you that. But for anyone running mission-critical Oracle on Azure NetApp files, this is really significant.
This is a generally available update, and it seems to focus on API capabilities for volume placement. Let's break down application volume groups for anyone not deep in the Oracle world.
Sure. So when you run a massive Oracle database in the cloud, performance is almost always dictated by I/O.
Input-output, right.
Right. So to maximize that, you use these application volume groups. This feature basically tells the Azure backend to physically distribute your volumes. You want your data volume on one storage node, your log volume on another.
And your redo logs on a third. This is anti-affinity. You're telling the infrastructure, do not put these things together.
Exactly. You do that for two reasons. One is fault tolerance. If a node fails, you don't lose everything. But the main reason is throughput.
You don't want your log writes fighting with your data reads for the same network bandwidth on one controller.
Precisely. So that's the production setup. We've had that for a while.
So what was the gap that this update fixes?
The gap was in the data protection volumes. These are the destinations for your backups and your cross-region replication. Previously, you couldn't enforce that same anti-affinity logic on the backup side. So you might have a perfectly tuned production environment, but your disaster recovery volumes could all land on the same physical rack.
I see the problem. That sounds like a noisy neighbor issue just waiting to happen inside your own tenant.
It is. I mean, imagine you have a catastrophic failure and you need to restore or failover to those data protection volumes.
If they're all clumped together on one storage node,
Your restore speed is going to be bottlenecked by that single node's throughput.
which means your RTO, your recovery time objective, goes right out the window.
Yeah.
You promised the business you'd be back up in 4 hours, but the physics of the disk I/O literally won't let you hit that target.
Exactly. This update allows you to create data protection volume groups with the same anti-affinity layout as production. It ensures your backup architecture is physically mirrored to your production architecture.
So it guarantees your safety net has the same structural integrity as the main platform.
It connects back to that theme of maturity. We aren't just giving you storage space, we're giving you control over the physical topology of that storage. Because at a certain scale, physics really matters.
Okay, let's zoom out geographically for this last section. We have some regional expansions hitting 2 specific areas, Switzerland and Israel.
Let's start with Switzerland North. Azure load testing has hit general availability there.
Now, Azure load testing, that's the managed service based on Apache JMeter. Why is the specific availability in Switzerland North a big deal? Usually we just spin up load testers in, say, East US and point them at the target.
That works for generic web apps. It absolutely does not work for highly regulated industries.
Which Switzerland is famous for.
Right. Think about Swiss banking, insurance, healthcare. They have extremely strict data residency laws, like the Federal Act on Data Protection.
You can't just pipe customer data out of the country, even for a test simulation, without jumping through huge compliance hoops.
Exactly. And even beyond compliance, you have the latency factor. If your entire user base is in Zurich and you're testing from Virginia, your latency metrics are garbage.
You're not testing the user experience, you're testing the speed of light across the Atlantic.
You are. So bringing the managed load testing service into the region allows those Swiss enterprises to generate high-scale load from inside the compliance boundary and with realistic network latency.
It simplifies the DevOps loop a lot.
Immensely.
Yeah.
You don't have to manage your own JMeter VMs just to stay compliant.
Okay, and moving over to Israel Central, we have Azure File Sync reaching general availability.
This is a key enabler for hybrid cloud strategies in that region. Azure File Sync is the service that links your on-premises Windows servers to Azure files.
I've deployed this a few times. It's the classic branch office solution. You've got a local file server because users hate the lag of opening a spreadsheet over a VPN.
But you're running out of disk space constantly.
Right. SMB protocol over a WAN is just painful. It's so chatty.
It is. Azure File Sync keeps the hot files, the ones people are actively using, cached on the local server in Tel Aviv. But the cold files, the marketing PDFs from 3 years ago,
They're tiered off to the cloud in Israel Central.
but the user doesn't see a difference, do they? The file stub is still there.
Correct. The user sees the file in Explorer. If they double-click it, the server seamlessly rehydrates it from Azure.
Yeah.
But for the IT admin, it means they don't have to keep buying physical SAN storage for the office.
You get the limitless capacity of the cloud with the LAN speed performance of on-prem.
And again, the regional availability in Israel Central is almost certainly a data residency play.
Absolutely. Organizations in Israel can now use this hybrid tiering without their data ever leaving the country's borders. It effectively kills the need for massive on-prem tape backups for file servers.
Okay, that covers the stack for this week. It's dense, technical, and full of homework for our listeners. Let's do a quick recap.
Sure, we started with compute. The headline is Ubuntu 24.04 GA on AKS, but the real headline is the default enablement of Container 2.0.
And your homework there is to audit your clusters for deprecated API usage and socket mounts. You have until Kubernetes 1.35 before this becomes mandatory. Don't wait.
Then we move to security. User delegation SaaS is in public preview for tables, files, and queues.
It means it's time to stop using storage count keys. It's time to refactor those legacy apps to use Entra ID. It's more work for devs, but it drastically reduces your blast radius.
Then the Oracle update bringing anti-affinity to data protection volumes, so your backup recovery speed can actually match your production expectations.
And finally, regional tooling. Managed load testing in Switzerland North and Azure File Sync in Israel Central.
And putting it all together, the so what for this week really is consistency.
Consistency, yeah.
Consistency in OS versions, consistency in the security model across storage types, and consistency in the physical layout of database volumes.
It's not exciting marketing, but it's the kind of consistency that builds really reliable platforms.
It is. And it leads me to one final thought.
Huh.
We talked about user delegation SaaS expanding to almost all storage services now.
Mm,
I think we are witnessing the death of the storage account key.
you really think so?
I do. For 15 years, the storage key has been the easy button, but it's a huge security liability. With these updates, the argument for keeping it enabled is pretty much gone.
That's a strong take.
So I would challenge every listener. Go look at your storage account configurations. If you are still allowing shared key access, ask yourself why. And if the answer is legacy compatibility, that answer just got a lot less defensible this week.
A provocative thought to leave you with. Go check your IAM policies, check your container runtimes, and we will see you next week for another deep dive. Thanks for listening.